Oh, Walt Disney, the man that helped build his own company, is now regarded as a pioneer in the animation genre with his classic stamp of approval, or at the very least, his involvement in some of his works in the animation department. The reason why Walt Disney Company is so successful is because of him and his involvement in so many other projects that he at least tried to get himself involved in. And to this day, so many people still flock to Disney movies, regardless on the quality or at the very least on how things are going at the House of Mouse. Can't deny the impact that Walt Disney has over animation in general. And a lot of people are probably wondering, especially people my age, are like, how did it all start? Seriously, what was it? What was the movie that made Walt Disney how he is? Now, not to say that he had not had success prior to his first film. I'm just saying though, what was the thing that got him into not only doing animation full time, but also creating a large empire himself? Well, if you come to think about it, a lot of people would throw out like Cinderella, Huey, like, what is it? Well, wouldn't you know it? It all started with a princess and seven dwarves. I'm not joking. That is, it still surprises me that that was the first. My mind would have immediately went to Cinderella, but sure, we'll take a princess and some dwarves. All right, that's just what it is. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, or as I will simply just refer to it as Snow White 1937, is directed, and stay with me now, by David Hand, Percy Pearce, Wilfred Jackson, Ben Sharpsteen, William Cortoli, and Larry Morey. And even though it is based off of the Brothers Grimm book, a story by Ted Sears, Richard Creedon, Otto England, Dick Rickard, Earl Hurd, Merrill de Merce, Dorothy Ann Blank, and Webb Smith. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, exiled into the dangerous forest by her wicked stepmother, a princess is rescued by seven dwarf miners who make her part of their household. Prior to its release, like I said, Walt Disney was becoming kind of famous due to his animated short films that were really prominent throughout the 1930s. He had been making animated short movies that people were really enjoying, especially during the time of the Great Depression. And of course, introducing to the world an iconic mascot that we all know, yes, Mickey Mouse. Even though he went by Steamboat Willie, this was, of course, the most iconic thing to have come out. Now, granted, it wasn't the first thing to show Mickey Mouse, but it is the most significant and important one in the Walt Disney Company with regards to the depiction of Mickey Mouse and how this is the one that really showed the world this character. And of course, you also have his friends. You have Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, Pluto. So many characters came from Walt Disney himself, and most of them were voiced by him. Cut to 1937. Disney would bring the classic Brothers Grimm story. This is based off of a book, which, yes, there has probably been so many controversies surrounding the fact that, sure, is Disney appropriating stories for the sake of just saying, like, hey, we want you to remember our stuff, not the book. I won't deny that. That's a lot of the times what happens when a big studio like Disney kind of pretty much revamps it to what the public wants it to see it as, not how the original story was intended. Just like how, you could take Pinocchio or Cinderella. So many classic fairy tale stories have been kind of reimagined by Disney to have theirs be the most iconic and the most familiar looking one. When it was released, it became the first animated feature not only for Disney, of course, now that we know what Disney is capable of with regards to animation work and pioneering in terms of artistry and techniques, but it is the first in the United States. I took it upon myself to watch this in preparation for this live action remake, which when I do that review, we'll get to very soon. I may have seen this film when I was like maybe little. To be honest, I don't remember much about it. Having now seen it in the great year of 2025, I'm going to be honest with you, this is one that I think is either going to be a hot take or one that won't surprise a lot of people, but who knows? I'm just going to say it's a hot take. It's okay. I get that this was the first animated film from Disney. I understand it, and I will get to some of the praises that this movie, of course, definitely deserves. Without a doubt, I will not deny them. But I feel like that there's better ones out there than this. If you were to ask me, would I rewatch this movie over, like, say, like, if I were to rewatch Cinderella? I actually would rather watch Cinderella. Would I watch Peter Pan over Snow White? I would. Jungle Book? I would. Sleeping Beauty? Yes. I am not sitting here saying, like, this movie is terrible. I'm just saying that, is there better movies that Disney has continued to strive and make better? Of course. Absolutely. But before giving my issues, here are the positives that I do have with this said film. Animation, I will not deny, is stunning. Every detail and drawing looks fantastic, even after almost 90 years. People, this is turning almost 90 years by 2027. It is crazy to me on how this looks amazing. It looks incredible. It feels vibrant and colorful. So much pride and passion went into the look of this film, and I cannot deny it. The amount of hard talent that went into making sure that the animation felt as seamless and as transitional as it can, it's impressive. Being a prime example for animated features, this is the thing that kickstarted how animated movies, especially in America, would kind of follow the template for it. And even other Disney movies would look at this and be like, all right, follow kind of like this format and how this was done. It is impressive to me on, after almost 90 years, it's still a sight to behold in terms of animated features of the 30s. The music is whimsical. Composers Frank Churchill, Leigh Harlan, and Paul Smith make a score that brings the film to life. To this day, people are still humming and singing to the songs that are played throughout this entire movie. No matter what it is, you'll find somebody who will be whistling, humming, whatever the case may be, and enjoying the songs that are being played throughout this movie because they are timeless. They are some songs that people still remember and still people enjoy, even though they probably weren't born at that time. They still probably love it for what it is. The pacing and runtime is pretty fluent. Every scene never slows down and keeps the film going at a decent pace. With a runtime of 1 hour and 23 minutes, it's short and sweet. I think that's good that for an animated feature, it doesn't go any further than that. I mean, nowadays we've seen animation films try to extend their length, like something like Across the Spider-Verse is, I think, the first animated film to be now at like 2 hours or something like that. I just like for an animated feature to just be short. It doesn't need to carry on any further than it needs to. It knows what it needs to do. The direction is decent. Each director, whether it be supervising or sequence directors, because those were the names I mentioned, one was a supervisor and most of them all were sequence directors, blends everything together to make it all coherent. It all feels seamless, timeless. I cannot deny the amount of hours that it took for all this to like hit the right beats, hit the right notes, make sure that every sound effect was spot on. I cannot tell you. And people, again, this is 1937. They didn't have the technology we have today. We could just easily do that. And we could just easily fix it. Back then, that's a hard task. It was impressive. And it's still impressive for a movie that came out in 37. It's quite an achievement for these directors to have pulled off something that is very much unique for its time. The voice acting is enjoyable. All the voice acting fits the tone and gorgeous feeling. It may seem like it's out of date in terms of how characters are expressive and how thematic it is, but for what it is, it's entertaining. It's nothing to sit here and say like amazing, but it's at least like wholesome enough to be like, all right, I'm enjoying this. It may not be acting that we know of today because, of course, acting has changed, acting has evolved, especially voice acting too, because voice acting has come a long way with regards to how actors convey their emotions through their voice. But you can't deny it's still a decent one. The production is impressive. Besides the animation, the camera technique, and using live actors for some of the characters, it's truly amazing. For its budget of $1.5 million for 1937, all the hard work paid off. And when I say camera techniques, there's a where they have a camera set up here and you had drawings or paintings of a scene and how it would move in and out of frame of the scene that it's trying to showcase. And it's impressive on that camera technique being as revolutionary as it is. Because again, we're talking about a time in which you don't have cameras that could just easily just go in and out of like I can with my camera. They had to use a manual camera to push it and pretty much press all the pictures together so that way it is going past it into a scene. It is amazing and really a technical achievement in filmmaking. Not just animation, filmmaking, people. That is impressive for a movie like this to build something that can, at the very least, transition you into a scene without having to feel like you need to just be like showcasing it. That's it. And yes, they did use live actors for the animation scenes. Like you can tell even in this movie, yeah, they used actual actors. And most movies at this time did. Like Peter Pan. Peter Pan used actual actors. Same with The Jungle Book, Sleeping Beauty. You have a lot of these really classic Disney movies that actually utilize real life actors, and the animators had to watch as they were moving along to capture the movement. And it's all done beautifully. And while you can say that is an old technique, yes, it's still impressive. It is very much a technical achievement in filmmaking in some sort of way. Like I said, it is a technical and marvelous achievement of what Disney has done. For me, though, I wasn't crazy about this film. It just, for me, had some issues that I'm just not crazy about. That's just me. I know I'll get some boos, I'll get some hates from some people, but I'm just gonna go in and say here are the negatives. The prince's involvement is pretty pointless if you ask me. He doesn't do anything but only show up at the beginning and at the end. I'm serious. He is there at the beginning of this movie and then he shows up at the end, but rather before he shows up at the end, a text has to explain what he's been doing in terms of his involvement. I would want to say remove him from this film entirely, and it wouldn't change much other than, I guess, the ending. But for the most part, this character's pointless. Why is he here? I don't know. Because they just needed a prince, all right? And maybe that is in the original book, but I'm just telling you, there is nothing that this character brings. The villain, hear me out when I say this, is lackluster. The evil queen, I will not deny, her looks and the voice acting itself is iconic. Whether it be how she is in her regular form or when she becomes an old lady. Her motivation, though, is just not interesting to me, okay? For how memorable she is, her reasoning for me, it's boring, okay? I understand that, again, maybe this is in the original. I don't know. I've never read it. What do I have here is a villain who just wants to kill her stepdaughter, and yes, they don't really explain that much, and I will get to that in a little bit, but just because she's beautiful. I get it. So many people will tell me that, Zach, it's a simple story. I understand, but there is a part of me that's like, for what this character is and how memorable this character is, I thought there would be something more. You know, like I think Maleficent is more iconic in terms of what she does, in terms of pure evil, versus she just hates the fact that her stepdaughter is more beautiful than her. That's just it. That's your reasoning? Okay. The story, if you ask me, is meh. It's alright. As much as people love this film, okay, I know that there are some diehard Disney fans who love this movie, or some people who grew up with this film, whether they were kids or when they were there at the time, okay? It's a story that really isn't that amazing if you ask me. And like I said, maybe the book is better. Maybe it is. I don't know. And of course, with Disney, they try to change everything that was from the book into what the movie is. So there could be some things that were left from the book that translated into this movie. I'm just telling you right now, the story here, it's just not interesting, okay? I have to be honest. It really isn't, okay? It's just a lot of, like, just going through the motions and just going through scene by scene with beautiful animation, but that's it. There's nothing really interesting that really captivated me this entire film, other than, like I said, that animation. But story-wise, not really. And the editing is a bit off, if you ask me. Most of the editing is fine until there's some fade outs in between the film, which is kind of weird because for most movies, most of the time there's a lot of good transitions. And like I said, there are some good in and out shots with that camera movement, like I mentioned, but I just feel like it's weird when it happens. Like, it's just a fade out, okay? Like, it was almost like made for TV, except the TVs weren't invented at this time. That wasn't until like the 50s. But this is still 37. This is still when you have to go to the movies to watch something. And yeah, it's weird when editing like this kind of comes off as being like made for TV. But maybe that also could be just Disney Plus as well and how they showcase it. I'm just saying, like, there is just some weird parts with regards to like fade outs and then transitioning to the next scene. It's just kind of weird. Of course, this movie is important in film history, okay? I'm not going to deny that. Its significance with animation and its technical achievements, without a doubt, I am not denying that. I am not trying to destroy any sort of reputation that this movie has with regards to its impact, okay? It's just, unfortunately, other parts of this film just doesn't work with me. Okay, for as much as this movie is beloved, I just didn't really care that much. By the end, I'm just like, all right, well, that was the first film. Okay, but thankfully there's better ones if you ask me, or ones I would rather watch than this. So I'm gonna give Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or Snow White 1937 a 6 out of 10. I think it's okay. I think it's alright. I'm not here to hate on anybody that loves it. If you still love this movie, hey, more power to you. I'm glad you can still love a classic animated feature like this. I'm just saying for myself, compared to, I guess you can say unfairly, to other Disney films. I'm not saying today, I'm saying of like around the time Walt Disney was still alive. I just think that there are better ones out there than this. So I will be doing a review for the live action Snow White film very soon. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.